Welcome to another episode of my series, Mystic Minds with K Mystic, where I represent something that I like to call the mystic veil, the bridge between the seen and unseen worlds. Today, this episode will be about the created player versus the embodied identity, which is something important because it's something I've been thinking about for a very long time. Not that long, actually, a couple of months. The created player. So Kakashi Hakate in Naruto, the anime, his Sharingan allows him to copy almost any jutsu he sees in battle, earning him the name the Copycat Ninja. Now, one of my favorite shows ever, Heroes, Siler Gabriel Gray. He can physically dissect how things work, letting him take their abilities by examining their brains. When you are watching the show, right, hopefully this is not a spoiler because this show came out when I was like 5 years old. But in the show, people thought he was eating people's brains because he would have to slit their head open to basically see their abilities. But they ended up finding out since his abilities stem from being able to understand how things work. I think he was a watchmaker. He could understand how their abilities worked and he could basically copy them. A created player archetype see how a person talks, dresses, carry themselves, their mannerisms, etc., and strive or subconsciously begin to become this person that they admire or like. This is something that people do a lot. They become Sylar or Kakashi Hakate with their Sharingan. Why be second best at being someone else when you can be first at being yourself? I think Dr. John D. Martini, he said, why be second best at being Elvis when you can be first best at being yourself? I don't know if he made that up or he got it from someone else, but that's something I definitely remembered. He had basically said, when you try to imitate someone else, you're basically trying to live in their value hierarchy, which creates inner conflict, low self-worth, and inauthenticity. Comparing yourself to others is a sign that you don't see your unique purpose clearly yet. Guys, you should always try to embody your own internal identity instead of being a created player. When you embody your internal identity, you create your own value systems, whether that's based off your higher self or different morals and principles that you see within other people, which you can embody within yourself. But when you're being a created player, you're basically creating a copy of someone, an after image, and basically trying to imitate and become this person or this version of you that isn't really you. Most copying happens subconsciously, right? Your subconscious starts building a model of who you should be based off the person you're observing. And then your behavior, styles, and goals start to shift towards this person. You see it all the time, right? I'm sure you guys can come up with your own examples or things that you experience in real life when you've seen this happen. In my class, trend forecasting, we had to read the book The Tipping Point. And there was a part of the book where he talked about the idea that humans unconsciously synchronize each other with each other's bodies. This is something that happens all the time, right? You might be in class and you might yawn and you might see someone across the room yawn, or you might be on the train and someone across you stretches and you might subconsciously, you know, feel your body about to stretch. So people mirror each other consciously. So this isn't something subconsciously. So this isn't something that happens where sometimes people specifically go out with their Sharingan looking for people to copy or be like Sila and kind of decipher what people are doing to do it for themselves. This is something that people can do subconsciously. When created players follow destruction, some suburban kids born into environments of peace opportunity fall victim to the perceived authenticity of people born into negative circumstances. So let's say there's someone from a negative environment and they embody their true identity, even if it's dark, even if it's chaotic, even if it's destructive, right? And they're not being a creative player. Someone from the suburbs, right, sees this person embodying the identity. They see that as, hey, this is something that I should strive to be because this is something that's cool or authentic. They end up following destruction and they end up not following and being who they were supposed to be. And they end up going down a path of chaos. This is something that we've seen with the emergence of drill music. How many people were supposed to live a regular life, but they saw something that they heard something in a song or thought something was cool, thought a lifestyle was cool, completely destroyed their life, right? You know, what's my video? I just made it. I'm not coming back here, where I talk about reincarnation and not finishing your soul curriculum. Imagine you follow a path, right? And you were supposed to be some type of scientist, some type of athlete, but you followed someone else from a completely different path that you weren't supposed to be. The embodied identity is someone that operates as their true self and seeks to embody better versions of who they are through a process of self growth. They don't copy people, like the creative player, but instead create and filter out what's necessary for their own growth. So the abilities of Kakashi and Sila are important. You can decipher things that you should get. You should decipher things and qualities and attributes of people that you admire or look up to, their success, etc., etc. Things like organization. There was someone that I kind of wanted to replicate their cognitive abilities and their brain capacity and endurance. This person would basically go from their day job that they basically did for a living, go teach their day job from the afternoon till night, and then go back and then basically do this every day. And I started to see, okay, well, how can I replicate this into my own creative hobbies instead of doing it 2 hours, taking a break, doing it a couple hours, scrolling on my phone, doing it a couple of hours, doing all of these different things and stopping and starting and stopping and starting. How can I basically replicate this cognitive capacity? So this is what I mean by using and curating things to take and things to leave, and not just completely replicating or copying something else, becoming a creative player. So the conclusion is the goal isn't to decide what's better or worse between copying others or being yourself, but to make genuine attempts to becoming the best version of who you are. This means shredding negative subconscious blocks and negative behaviors that hold you back. Leave behind what was never yours, mannerisms, speech cadence, and interests that you genuinely don't care about. A lot of people are into things that they actually don't deeply care about. You know, you see it all the time where people become 30 or 40 and they talk about, oh, I wish I did this and I did this because of that person, I did this because of this person. You know, don't end up being in a time where you felt like life happened to you and you didn't consciously create your own reality and path. And yeah, I already talked about this in the last slide, but use Kakashi's and Sila's abilities to intentionally observe people who are where you want to be and extract their behaviors, traits, and success and systems behind their success. So there's nothing wrong with being like Kakashi or Sila, but you should use it to embody your identity instead of being a creative player. And that concludes another episode of Mystic Minds with K Mystic, where I represent something that I like to call the Mystic Veil, the bridge between the seen and unseen worlds.